Okay, gents, I just tried to teach this lesson where you're making your control panel and your casing. I got to say it was pretty appalling, and so I wanted to go through it again. I think probably in more detail, but in hopefully half the time. And so hopefully you can stay with me for 20 minutes, probably 25 minutes, and we can get it sorted. You need to go down here initially, as you know, to open TextSoft, DT, and there we go down to TextSoft V3. So we're going to jump onto TextSoft. Don't worry about that. Just click off of it. I'm going to make my control panel. I'm going to make it 160 by 80. I don't want to go above really 190 in either dimension because the platform, the bed of the 3D printer is only 200 by 200. And so I want to be keeping around that sort of dimension. So I'm going to go 80 by 160. So I'm going to come off here, and you can't quite see these. I don't know if I can bring them in at all. I don't think I can. We're going to go to the square, which is this one. And I'm also going to go on to gridlock. Gridlock means that I snap to the grid every centimetre 10 mil, opposed to step lock, which is every millimetre. So going down the bottom here, I'm looking at relative, I think it's meant to be. I'm 160 by 80. Can you see that on the bottom? I'm going to press the right mouse button, and I have got my lovely rectangle. Now I spoke about what makes Dyson, and I believe Dyson has got very rounded edges, and therefore I am going to, as I was saying, I believe the Dyson shapes sort of have rounded corners. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use this 10 by 10 in from the corner, this point here, to be the center of my circle. And just bear that in mind, okay, because we're going to come back to that later. Delete, not delete any, delete is a second button in. And what that means is delete to and intersect. And so what you can see is if I zoom in, it's going to delete this line until it meets another line. So it's met the circle there, and this one is going to delete all of that. So you can see it's a really useful function, this one, and that is going to be my my control panel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, oh, be quiet please, I'm going to draw a line in here which I'm going to turn red. I'm going to turn it red because it's just a line that I'm using as a reference or a guideline. So my line color I'm going to put down as red, and so now I've got a red line, and that is exactly in the middle. And one of the reasons for that is I'm going to try and use that as a reflective line, so I can draw one side and reflect the stuff I need onto the other. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a 7-segment display. They come out at 13 by 20 millimeters. Now, of course, gridlock is no good for this. Got to go on to step lock. I'm going to go on step lock, and again, look down at the relative. And what do we have? We have 20 by 13. Okay, that's what we want, and now I've got to place that. Now, of course, I'm going to roughly place that by eye. I think that's slightly too far to the left, but that looks pretty good to me. What I want to do is I want to put a little button there, and I want to put 2 LEDs on one on each side. So I think the button is 8 mil, but please guys, please check that because it may well not be. I've used that center line there as a reference point, but of course my circle could be the incorrect diameter. So I'm going to pop over to my radius, just show you how I did that again. I selected it, over to properties, I've got my radius in there. I'm going to type 4 in, I'm going to update, and I'm going to OK, and that should be now the correct size. Now I also want, that's for my button, I also want 2 LEDs, one each side, so I'm going to copy and paste that. It's going to be the same size. It's not for an LED, it's for an LED holder, and I'm going to put it in here. Now I'm not too sure where that is, but I want it on exactly the same side on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up here, I'm going to go to draw, transform, really good function. I'm going to go to mirror copy. I've got it on repeat now. I'm going to repeat it once. I'm not going to replace it. And I'm going to use this as the line of reflection. And that didn't work at all, did it? I'm not really sure about that. Could you be quiet, please? So I'm going to try and do that again. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to go to draw. I'm going to do transform. I'm going to go to mirror image. Did I put rotate before? I don't know. Replace. And there we go. Right, so that is what I should be doing. Apologies. Mirror image. Right, now what's happened, you see, is because I've already selected, I've got to select off of it because I did it incorrectly. Transform, mirror image, repeat. I think I was on rotate or something. And there we go. That's what I'm trying to do. Sorry about that. Right, now, I want to attach this to the housing behind with some screws, and the holes for the screws need to be 3 millimeters. So what I'm going to do is put my screws in here, and this, of course, pay attention, is 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters in from the corner. Okay, so let's go and put it back on grid lock so I can grab that. I'm going to draw my circle. Doesn't matter, it's too big. Going to hit it. Properties. Radius of 3 mil is of course 1.5. I'm going to update. And I'm okay, and I'm exactly in the right position. What is quite good now, of course, is I can select that, and if I want the screw in all 4 corners, I can go down to transform, I can mirror image, repeat, I can mirror it, and then of course what I can do is I can select both, although I've selected now the curves as well. I can select both, I can go back up to draw, transform, mirror, and as long, repeat, that's what I'm trying to do, as long as I'm in the middle, which that is, I can reflect it down. So the other thing we could have done is we could have copy and pasted, which would have been another way we could have done it. We could have just selected it, copy paste, in it pops, and then what we can do is grab the center and we can move it into position. Okay, so that's another way you can do it. Right, other things that I want. Now, I would like to indicate the outside of the 3D printed box. Now, when we print with a 3D printer, we don't want to be printing things flat in regards to like the top and the bottom of the box. We only want to be printing the sides. So, what do we have here? I would like a little border, a little frame going around the outside, which this control panel sits into. And of course, what I need is a little shelf that the control panel sits onto. So I need a couple of different lines here. I need one that's on the outside here, which I'm going to make 3 mil bigger than this line. And I need another, which is 3 mil smaller than this line. So how do I do that? Well, let us get off of gridlock, and we need to be 3 millimeters bigger. Right, so that is exactly on that point, and I'm going to pull out. I say it's exactly. I'm not on anything, right? We're going to go to step lock. That's better. Right, that's exactly on that point. It's not, and I'm going to come out 3 mil. How do I know it's 3 mil? Well, it says down the bottom, doesn't it? Okay. Now I'm going to select the top corner of that, and I'm going to draw a line. Now, if I'm going to be 3 mil bigger in each dimension, I'm going to be 86 by 156. I know that. 166, sorry, 86 by 166, which I am at the moment. So I've now 86 by 166, got a border that's 3 millimeters bigger all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to click that. I also I'm going to draw 3 mil by 3 mil, although that's gone off, and draw another box which is 3 millimeters smaller on each side. So that is going to be 154 by 74, I believe, yes. 155. And that is going to be the shelf. Okay? Now those are not part of the control panel, they are part of the box. So as it's a construction line, I'm going to colour it in red so that it's really clear that it refers to a different document. Okay, I can delete that. So now what we can see is some bits and pieces. What I haven't done is curve the corners of the outside box, and I want to do that. So I know that this here is the central point to form that curve, and therefore I'm going to use the same point to form the one above. Given that this dimension here is 10 millimeters, and given that is 3 millimeters, I'm going to be wanting a circle with a radius of 13. Okay, and what I can do is I can pop that in, and if I then select that and go down here, it's just a tiny bit bigger. I'm going to put it on 13. I'm going to update. Okay, and then just as I did before, I showed you before, I'm going to copy and paste that and pop that into position just manually. Now this is going to be the outside of my box. I'm going to go over to the delete function. I'm going to delete everything apart from, can you see those lines that we want? I want that line. Oh, Control Z. Okay, that's good. What you can do with this, and I'll show you just a trick in a second. What you can do is you can delete that one and then that one, and then you can select this because it actually breaks it in two, and you can just backspace and get rid of it. Actually delete it, sorry. Of course we want to delete those two as well. So that, guys, is my technical drawing. Now this part here, this part here, this part here, and this part here need to go in red because they're not part of the control panel. Okay, so we've got the inside shoulder and then we've got the outside. Right, so let's get on to constructing the 3D printed section. Back down the bottom, go to D&T, go to Inventor. When you go to Inventor, you want to go to New. Once you've gone to New, you want to select the metric. So let's go to New. When it's loaded up, New. Now this may well be looking like this, okay? So when you see this EN-US, it's English US, what we want to do is click on that and then go to metric and then select millimeters. Otherwise you might be on inches, which is no good at all. All right, you can see I've already created one down here previously, and that's what we're going to be trying to do today. It's sort of loading, I think. Great. So we're in Inventor. The idea behind Inventor is you draw a sketch and then you extrude it. You draw another sketch and you extrude it. You can positively extrude, which means you're making a solid, or you can negatively extrude, which means you're taking something away. So we are going to start with making that box. Now, let's just pop back to TechSoft, and we might be able, if we get a dimensions tool, really rudimentary this, isn't it? You can see it's 166 here by 86, and that's going to be the size of my box. Okay, so let's have a look. Going on to Inventor, we start by going on to 2D Sketch. Start 2D Sketch, click on it, and we go on to the base. All right, we then go on to the rectangle. If we've locked onto a point, it goes green. I'm going to pull it, and I don't really mind what it goes to because I'm going to type in my dimensions. So that is 86, tab 166, tab. Okay, so my 2 dimensions, I'm going to press enter, and hopefully what I've got is, and I certainly do, I have a block. or not really a block, is it? It's a rectangle. I'm going to go to 3D model, and go to extrude, and I'm going to select that face, okay? And you can see presently it has extruded to the depth of 10 millimeters, 10 millimeters, okay? So it's 10 mil. Now I can change it here or change it here, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to change that to 50, and we can see now we've extruded to 50, and that is going to be what I'm going to select. So let's just pop back onto here. What I've extruded is a rectangle that on that red line all the way around the outside. That's what I've done first of all. Right. So next up, what I'm going to do is pop back to it. I now need to think about a couple of things. I need to cut away a hole going through the middle. So the hole going through the middle is this section here between that point of the red rectangle and that point of the red rectangle. And so it's going to be 6 millimeters shorter here and 6 millimeters shorter there. So it's going to be 74 by, and of course the same here, 154. So, and it's going to be 6 in from the corner. Yes, 6 in from each corner. Right, let's get back to Inventor. I'm going to go back to Start 2D Sketch. I'm going to, didn't select it, select a plane. You can only select a working plane or a face of an object, and it's got to be flat, I believe. Okay, so I've selected that face. What I'm going to do is go to 3D model. No, I'm not. I'm going to go to sketch. I'm going to go to a rectangle. I'm going to wait till it goes green. I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to go 6 tab. Okay, and I'm going to do the same here. 6 tab. Now, I don't really need to do that because I know that it's going to be 154 by 74, don't I? And so it clicks into place just to show that that's going to be the actual size, but I didn't need that second one, okay? But what I can do is produce that, this is the top, okay? Got the top there and the orientation. I might actually just spin us round just so you know what's going on. That's better. You can see that rectangle that I've produced. I'm going on 3D model, extrude. Now, I've obviously added another 50 millimeter rectangle to this. I don't want to do that. I want to remove it. So what I can do is go to this button here, the pink one, the cut, and I can cut that out. All right, and now if I was to look from the bottom, you can see there's a hole all the way through. Okay, so if we weren't going down quite enough, we could make this bigger. But I'm cutting away, I'm not adding with this function, with this extrusion function, okay? So that is good, and that's all I want to do with that particular function. So another thing to point out, guys, here is if you had loads of sketches down here which aren't turned into extrusions, because every sketch turns into an extrusion, the computer program can get quite confused. So make sure when you draw a sketch, you turn it into an extrusion. And if you don't do that, then let's just delete the sketch. Another thing you might find is you don't know what's going on. I'll show you that with my next bit actually. Right, we're going to go back in here and we are going to draw up the next section. So we're going to go into here, 2D sketch, and select the face, brilliant. And of course, what we're looking for is, let's just do that. We're looking to draw this black line in because this is the step here. This is the outside frame, and then it steps down to the inside here. Okay, so I'm trying to draw that in. Of course, it's 3 by 3 because that's the wall thickness. And what I can do now is, because I know the dimensions, which are 160 by 180, I can just type them in. Sorry, 160 by 80, tab 160, tab. That is the size of the initial control panel. Now I know what you're going to be saying. You're going to say, oh, but it's got rounded corners. And it certainly has got rounded corners, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So I'm going to extrude, okay? I'm going to extrude, you're going to zoom in, and you can see that I've not selected the whole shape, I've selected that plane, okay? So I'm going to extrude that going down, and I'm going to extrude that, negatively extrude that by 3 millimeters. So I tick that one, it goes all the way through because it's on 50. So if I change that to 3, you can see what I've created is a little lip that my control panel will sit on. Brilliant. So I'm going to press OK. Now, it's all well and good, isn't it? But I've got these sharp corners, and if you look at the control panel, it's got all these rounded corners on the outside, and this outside of the control panel, but also the outside of the 3D printing. So back to this, and we can use this tool, which is the fillet tool. Now, fillet tool takes a little while to actually load up. If we have, from the middle here, we have 10 millimeters to here, don't we? And so we have an extra 3. So from the middle, it is a 13 millimeter radius that created the curve on the edge of that box. Okay, equally well, it's a 10 millimeter one there. So what I'm going to do is back to this. I'm going to make that 13 mil. Okay, and then I'm just going to select those corners. Now, can you see how easy that is? But of course, I can't select the corner over here. So what I need to do is just select it up here, spin it round, and they are my 13 millimeter radii. However, can you see that if I do this, I'm removing, let's just, I'm trying to, I might be able to show you down here actually. Can you see I'm starting to remove this section? So for this particular function right now, it's really important we start off with the smallest radius first. So I'm going to cancel that, okay? I'm going to cancel that. Now the smaller radius was the 10. So I'm going to go on the fillet, just as I did before. And I'm going to go to 10 millimeters, okay? And I'm going to make this section 10 mil. Now, you can probably see, can't quite get to anything else. That's it. It sometimes can be quite hard to actually grab these, but now you can begin to see, right, I see where that control panel goes, and of course it goes in there. But what I'm not doing here, referring back to the technical drawing, I'm not putting those red curves in, am I? And I expect, you know, the eagle-eyed, the clever kids amongst you will realize what I can do next is go back to the fillet, and I've got to go back to the fillet. And I can change that to 13, of course, and I can put in the second one. Okay, so now what we've got is we've got an outside diameter, sort of lozenge shape with a diameter of 13, internal sort of 10 diameter, so that's going to fit the control panel. Brilliant. What I haven't really done, I haven't really thought about, is those places where the screws are going to be secured. So let's just go back up to the top. I'm going to spin it round. Can you see this one? There we go, spin it round. I'm looking for something here, aren't I? Now, given that that is 10 millimeters from, oh, sorry about that. I'm going to go on to the rectangle tool. That is 10 mil, or we can actually, that's 13 mil, sorry. So from the corner, I want a block in here, which is going to be probably about 18 by 18, okay, with a nice radius. We could probably go 17, but I'm going to go 18 by 18, I think. That gives me 3 millimeters clearance all the way around. Right, I'm going to go back on that because we don't need that shape. Back to this, and we're going to go to the sketch function, and we're going to select. We're going to go to the rectangle. I'm not going to work from this corner, I want to work from this. Can you see when I lock into place, when it's got that dotted line? Pull it, 18, tab, 18, tab. okay, and that is the center of those different arcs. That's exactly where that hole needs to be. No, it's not. Sorry, it's not the center of the arcs. The center of the arcs is there, isn't it? So that's a little bit bigger. Now, what do I want to do next? What I want to do next is I want to create a square which goes to this point. And the reason for that is if I was to extrude this square here, I'll be adding a piece over here, which I don't want. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So I just want to create an internal piece, which is going to create an anchor for the hole to be created in. So I'm going to go to model, I'm going to go to extrude, I'm going to go to this. Now, I'm going to extrude it all the way down, which is, of course, 47, because it's 3 millimeters in, so 47. Now, if I select the whole of that square, it's of course going the other way. That's negatively extruded now. Can you see? You want to positively extrude. Can you see my corner become square again? So I'm not going to select all of it. I'm just going to select this part here. So extrude. That's it there. Can you see? I've got it. Sometimes it's quite hard to select, but what I've done there is just selected that square part. And let's just go through what exactly we need to do. It's extracting, it's extruding only 3 millimeters out. I want to go 47, so 47 in here. I also want it to go down, not up. So I press this one, and I believe that's negatively extruding. It's not actually. It's positively extruding, so that's right. So I press OK. So now I've got the mast for my anchor. Going back to the top, I'm going to just go, no, that's all right. Mast for my anchor, and we must remember the hole is going to go about here. Well, let's put that hole in then. How are we going to do that? Well, let's just have a look. We're going to go back to 2D sketch, and we're going to select the plane, in and out. We know from the corner here it is 13 by 13, so I'm going to get my you can also see it from there, can't you? From there it's 10 by 10, isn't it? Why don't we just do it from there? That looks all right. Sorry, 13 by 13 from there. Yeah, so that is the point that I'm going to be producing the hole, the anchor point. Okay. What do I do next? Well, let us just try and have a look at this a bit easier. Okay, so we're going to produce a hole going through here that the screw can bite into. I'm going to go to 3D model. I'm going to go to hole. Hole pops up when we go down to the bottom. Hole is already on 2 millimeters because that's what I set it to last time, and that's exactly what we want. Now this is quite difficult. You've got to make it so, I mean, it looks quite easy, but sometimes it's quite difficult to actually highlight that point. But I want to highlight that corner, and now you can see there's a hole being produced all the way through. So that now will take, will be directly below the hole in my control panel, and the thread of the screw will bite into that. So lastly, what do I want to do? Well, I'm thinking that this is looking a little bit ugly, so I'm going to put a fillet on here as well. And so my fillet on there, I think it works with about an 8 millimeter fillet, and there we go. Now, of course, what I've got here is I've got one anchor, and I'm going to need another one here, another one here, another one here, and all those can be done at the same time. And also, what I would like is to have some sort of recess on the bottom as well. So this that we've done on the top should really be done on the bottom as well, so that it works properly. So I'm going to leave this there. I'm just going to go through this last section because I think this is going to be quite problematic now because we've chamfered it. It's going to be hard to draw this in. So I'm just going to show you a different way. A different way you could create the recess on here is, of course, go to the 2D sketch, select the plane from the outside. We're looking at 13, tab 13, aren't we? Yeah, we are. And we should be able to, well, it's there. That's locked on. I'm just trying to find these points. That's all I'm really doing. Tab 13. So another point is there. I'm just trying to find those, the center of those circles, and it's 13 away, isn't it? So 13, tab 13. And we've got 1 point there, 1 point there. Slightly confusing. Right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw this in. Now, if we just go back to TextSoft, I'm trying to draw that curve in there. Okay, that curve in, which we know is 10 millimeters. So back in we go. Last time I used a fillet tool for this. It's a diameter, so I'm putting it in as 20, radius 10, diameter 20. Okay, and from here, 20, tab 20, tab. And the reason I'm just showing you this, it's quite a rudimentary way of doing it, but just so you know, you can make shapes as well. It's going to lock onto that right hand side, it's going to lock onto there. Exactly the same thing is going to be happening here. I'm not too sure what happened there. Okay, so those points. Now what I'm going to try and do, it keeps on. I'm pressing escape here to stop that. I'm not too sure why it's doing that. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to go to 3D model, I'm going to go to extrude. I think this is going to all get a bit complex. But let's just have a look at it. So what we can see is I've drawn the 20 millimeter diameter, 10 millimeter radius circles. I've also joined the sides together. And what I'm hoping I can do with this is extrude all of these. And so I'm going to start by extruding the circles. You see those circles are getting highlighted, aren't they? Yeah. And then the middle. Oh. I think something is going slightly wrong. No, it's there. That looks good. That's good. That's good. Right, there's something going on here. I think that's good. Okay, so I've selected that shape that I've created. Indeed, we might be able to have deleted those. We're going in 3, aren't we? We're going in the other way. We're pressing this one. It's gone to negative extrusion. So now what I've done is I've clipped all that out. I'm going to OK. All right, right, for some reason it's failed, but that's the idea behind it. It's not quite working, so I'm going to do that again. But I won't bore you with that. Sometimes different things affect different things, and so it doesn't always work. But if I was you, I would work on top and bottoms together, and so you do your recesses together. All right, hope that's helped.